Yeah, go and bring it.
All right, you're in.
All right, welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we're ready to proceed. Everyone have a seat and state car next witness.
See, we call Alan Wallace.
Stop here first.
Thank you. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, ma'am. If you step up here, sir, have a seat and let me stand.
Good afternoon, Mr. Wallace.
Hello?
Can you please state your first and your last name?
Edward Wallace.
And how are you currently employed?
I'm a business owner.
And what business do you own?
Allen's Access and Gate Automation.
And what do you do with that business?
We do installations and service work for communities, industrial areas, for automated gates, security cameras, card access.
And are you familiar with Door King?
Yes, I am a dealer for them.
I'm sorry?
I'm a dealer for them.
Is that one of the companies of gates that you help assist in servicing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How long have you been dealing with that company or been a vendor for them?
Probably 10 years.
Have you serviced gates with the Doral Oaks apartment complex?
Yes, for probably about the last 8 years.
And that's located in Temple Terrace, Florida?
Correct, off 56th and Bush.
In May of 2014, did you assist law enforcement in obtaining the gate codes for the Doral Oaks apartment complex gate boxes?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain how these gate boxes work?
Whenever a resident or a visitor pulls up to the gate, they can scroll through the directory on the call box to call a resident. At that time, the resident can either push the 9 button on their phone that will allow them access, or they can hang up the phone that will deny them access, or if they do not answer the phone, that will deny them access and the gate will not open.
Is that the only way people can get in, or if they are an actual resident there, how do they typically get in the gate?
If they're a resident, they have a card. It's an AWID proxy card. It's programmed to credentials that only to the homeowner or the residents that's there should have that card. It's a way of tracking who's coming in the property as far as residents go. So anytime that the card is swiped, it records a log in the system. As long as you retrieve that log within 8,888 transactions, the log will be in there. If you don't, it will override itself. So the last log is wiped off each new transaction.
Are those the only two ways you can get in the gate code, or can you type in a code and gain access?
You can type in codes. They do have a 4-digit access code. Some of the residents have an access code, and and a lot of the residents don't have an access code. The access codes for apartment complexes are usually for law enforcement, vendors. That way people can't just give out, the access code. You give it to Joe over here. He can give it to Bill, and anybody can get in the property. So
Okay.
usually only law enforcement or vendors will have an access code. Everybody else that should be using either the directory or a proximity card.
And is the, when someone types in a code, uses their card, or uses the directory to call one of the residents, is that access kept or held on a software program that's connected with the gate box?
As long as they retrieve the transactions within the first 8,888 transactions.
Where is it that you gained access to these records to provide to law enforcement?
Management's computer.
Management through the Doral Oaks apartment complex?
Correct.
Did they request assistance from you to obtain those records?
Correct.
Were you provided specific dates in order to pull the records from of May 15th of 2018 to
Correct.
May 18th of May 15th of 2014 through May 18th of 2014?
Yes, the only way that we would know what transaction to pull are the dates that somebody would have given us to put that information in there to pull those transactions for those dates.
When is it that you usually need to pull these records?
Only whenever we're asked by management, usually whenever there's an incident in the complex, they would pull the transactions to see who came in the gate. if the gate malfunctions, sometimes you can get information from the transactions to see if maybe there was an upload done to it at the time, and that's why it was malfunctioning. We suggest that the management pull the transactions regularly so that they have them on their computer. But 9 out of 10 communities do not pull the transactions unless there's an incident that happens.
And to gain or to exit that apartment complex specifically, if the car pulls up to the gate, does it simply open up?
Yes, it's designed with the free exit loop, so when they pull up, it reads the metal in the vehicle to tell the gate to open.
I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit H, 1 through 56. Have you previously looked at these documents?
I have.
Okay. And do they fairly and accurately depict copies of the documents that you provided to law enforcement upon their request?
I didn't actually provide copies.
I'm sorry. Did you provide it on an electronic device?
Yes, ma'am.
Or not electronic device, a thumb drive to them?
Yes, ma'am. I downloaded the information to a flash drive and provided that to the detectives.
And are these fair and accurate copies of the printout that you provided
Correct.
to them?
Yes, ma'am.
State offers in evidence, State's Exhibit H, 1 through 56.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Admitted.
Permission to publish?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Wallace, when you provided the records to law enforcement, specifically the information contained within the records, did you provide it in an Excel spreadsheet form?
Yes, Door King's reports are all done in Excel spreadsheets, so that way it makes it easily for importing and exporting information to their system. So everything's downloaded into an Excel spreadsheet.
Have you also viewed it in another way when it was transferred over into a police report form?
Yes, I have. Whenever you download that into the Excel file and then they transfer it from the Excel file to their report, what happens is sometimes the boxes, because of the way they put the names in there, there's too many letters and they scooch themselves together. So it looks, when the report prints out the second print through the police report, it looks different. It looks like the name is in the wrong spot of the report. If it's converted back to the Excel spreadsheet, then it should convert itself back and all the boxes look normal.
Okay. So when we get to those, I'll have you point that out. Showing State's Exhibit H1, and there's a screen right behind you, Mr. Wallace. The initial paperwork. What is this initial document that was provided?
What that is the system's information in the computer. What that's just stating right there is their master code, the number of memory that they have, the phone number at the gate unit, the model of the gate unit. It has the relay numbers there that tells the gate when to open or what the numbers do, whether it opens the gate, holds the gate open, or releases the gate. That information, and nobody would ever see that except for a technician usually.
State's Exhibit H2. This document doesn't contain much information other than a begin time and end time stating the same times. What does that mean?
That's a hold open schedule. That would be the times the gates held open during the day. Durrell Oaks doesn't hold any of their gates open. They're closed 24/7 unless the gate's broken, and that'd be the only time that would be held open. And that's why you see no numbers in there under the times, because there's no time to hold it open.
And Mr. Wallace, when you turn and face the screen to look at it, if you could turn around when you're answering the question, because it's a little difficult to hear.
Okay.
State's Exhibit H3, what does this document contain?
That's just the holiday schedule. Once again, they don't have a schedule in their system, so there's no information there to obtain.
And are these standard beginning initial documents that print out when you provide the records?
Yes, ma'am.
H4, again, is this another informational document?
Yes, it is.
Starting with the bottom of page H5, there begins to be a beginning of an area code and some directory information down there. Can you explain that?
That's the residential listing. What that is the information that the management programs into the system. That's the page in the software they would go to program their name, their phone number, their directory code. If they had an entry code, it would have an entry code under the ENT box. Their device code would be their card that they have. Under notes, sometimes they put the apartment number, the unit number, building number, something to that. Some companies use the type of vehicle they drive. Just kind of a note about that resident would be kept in that box.
States H6, is that a continuation of that information?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, it doesn't appear, it appears that there's a huge block of numbers here where not much information is inputted. Is that something then that the apartment complex issued card numbers and that they did not associate it with a particular person or individual person?
Correct. That's just them programming a device, a card, a proxy card, and not assigning it to any specific name or phone number.
Do you know why they may do that?
Maybe it went to a maintenance guy, not knowing the software where they're supposed to really put the information at. Honest with you, laziness.
Starting with page H7, it begins showing alphabetical information put in. For instance, it has listed name, and there are last names, which what appears for some individuals, first initials of their first name or first names printed out. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then under the AAC, is that the area codes associated with these residents in the apartment complex?
Correct.
And the phone number, are those the phone numbers that are associated with those residents?
Correct. That's the phone number that the unit would dial.
What is the DIR? And then there's a 3-digit number under that column.
That's the directory code, so that if you went to the unit, instead of scrolling through 2,000 names, if you knew the person's directory code, you could just hit 113 and it would dial their phone number versus having to go through and scroll through everybody's name until you get to that person's name and then push and call.
Now, is that directory code separate and apart from the code that you would type into the gate access code to enter?
Yes.
Then what is, it looks under ENT, there are some 4-digit codes listed for some of the individuals or some of the residents.
That is a 4-digit entry code. That is the code that they would enter, that 4 digits, push pound, and that would open the gate.
Okay. What is SL? And there's this 2-digit number 01.
That is a security level. 01 means that they always have access. If it said 02, they would always be denied. And then 03 through 13, I believe, it's timed. So if you had a time zone, they would only be allowed on the property at those times.
Okay. And under T, it lists C as the entire column. Do you know what that is for?
That's if they had a tracker board. It's if they had multiple gates. They could put expansion boards on that system and control multiple gates, and that would say which tracker board it was. So it would come back to either a 3, a 1, a 2, stating that that tracker board was addressed at 1, 2, 3, and they may be only allowed to use that gate. So if somebody was assigned just to a particular gate, that's where that number would change in that area.
And it looks like a letter C. So is it numbers or letters?
C is constant, so
Okay.
it's constantly going to let them in that gate. So once if we had tracker boards on that system, there's another setting in there that you would click tracker boards, and that's where that number would show up if you only wanted to allow them in to that gate 1, gate 2, gate 3.
I see. And under device number, what are those numbers?
Those are the card numbers that they are assigned to each resident. So the little proximity card has a 5-digit number embedded into it, and that's how you track the person, is through that number.
And then under the notes, you stated typically that is where the apartment number that's associated with the resident is listed?
Correct.
Drawing your attention to page H9. Light here. Looking at resident Gibson, Gloria, 813-793-5727. The directory code for that individual is 393. So that's where if you were searching in the directory for her, she would be under 393.
Correct.
And her access code to get into the gate is 2222, is that correct?
Correct.
And her card number to gain access is 50034?
Correct.
And associated under the notes is number 721, which appears to be her apartment number.
Correct.
Do you know Gloria Gibson?
I do not.
Showing you State's Exhibit H13, still in the alphabetical directory, and showing you where it states police. Are the police given codes or access to the Doral Oaks to enter if they were needed to go into the apartment complex?
They are. Normally you would put them in under a visitor though instead of a resident. Once again, it's just kind of mismanagement. They put them in under a resident. That's why there's no phone number up there. But normally you wouldn't have, anytime that you're putting the resident, you can see them in the display. So when you go up to the phone unit, you can scroll down through there and police would come up. But if you push call, it wouldn't call the police because there's no phone number programmed under police. So you'd put them under vendors, so when people come up and they scroll through the system, you don't see the police. It's just stored in there under their access code. But that's just saying the police are under directory 959, code 1250.
And how you were just talking, typically it would go under vendor at the bottom of page Exhibit H15, where it's listed process server, security guard, Temple Terrace, UPS. Is that where you're saying that police?
Correct. If you
typically
notice
would
that they
list it?
don't have a phone number under there that says vendor, you don't want the vendor to be seen in the call box. You don't want somebody to come up and dial the pool guy, and the pool guy lets somebody just into the property. So you wouldn't want that information in the screen. Once again, like I said, kind of the management's fault for putting that up there instead of down there with the vendors in the correct location.
Okay. So moving on to the spreadsheet documents. State's Exhibit H16. And let's just start with the first column showing 5/18/2014. That is the date column that anybody would have entered or accessed the gate box or typed in a code and entered via the directory or used a card.
Correct.
Under the time, this is Standard Eastern Time on the gate box.
Correct.
And event type, where it says entry code, some of them say card. What does that mean?
That's whatever access was trying to be gained through the system. So whether somebody came up and dialed either the directory code to call somebody, or they used their card to get in, or they used an entry code to get in, that's the event type that would show up in the report.
So if it said a card, then that person used their card with that 5-digit number to get in, or if it says code, that's when they typed in a entry code, or it says entry code, it typed in an entry code?
Correct.
Okay. Under where it says number, these 4-digit numbers, what are those numbers?
That's going to be the number that was dialed in there if they used either the entry code or the directory code.
Okay.
So if they dialed a number instead of scrolling through the box and finding the name, then that would show up.
And under the cards, it still offers a number. Is that their assigned 4-digit number?
Correct.
Okay. If they didn't have the card, they would have typed in that 4-digit number.
If they didn't have their card, they wouldn't be able to get in. That 4-digit number would not let them in.
Okay. So how come when it says event type cards and then there's that 4-digit number, how is that number associated to them?
Because that's the number on their card. It's going to say, it's going to be a 5-digit number, so the first number is going to be, because there's only 4 up, there's going to be 0.
Okay.
And then the next 4 numbers.
I see. Then it has the name that was whatever name that was associated with the card that's in the directory. That's how the name comes up or attaches to the card or code.
Correct.
So now here's where I want to talk about how some of these under access, the column under access, what should that say?
That should either say admit or deny, and that's the
Okay.
only two things that it should say. And this is what happens whenever we stated earlier about the Excel spreadsheet. Whenever you convert it over to one file, it changes and scooches the Excel spreadsheet. Going in and moving these lines over fixes that problem in Excel. If we convert that back to Excel, it won't look like that. It'll be in perfect rows.
So under access, it should say admit or deny. Where you see these initials, are those people's first name initials?
Correct.
Did everything kind of move over? So under the access for this 11:53 p.m. entry code number 4848 for Horn, first name initial, were they admitted into the gate at that time?
Yes, that admit should go under access.
Okay. So the information is all there and correct. It just should have been under the access. Is that correct?
Yes, everything is shifted one block over.
What is APB? And it says relay 1.
Anti-passback. APB is, nobody uses it but hospitals. If I swipe my card to get in, I have to swipe my card to get out. It's so that you can't swipe your card and then hand it to somebody else, go in the property, and then they come in the in gate. They would have to use that card on an out gate in order to use it again on an in gate. The complexes don't use that anywhere.
So on that initial one where it says relay, it should say relay 1 underneath that?
Correct.
What does relay 1 mean?
Relay 1's the relay in the system that that entry gate is on. So the gate has 3 relays to it. This entry system, it has relay 1 for the entrance gate, relay 2 would be the exit gate, relay 0 would be the walk gate. Their property only has it on the entrance gate and the exit gate. So the only numbers you would ever see is relay 1 or relay 2, and they don't hold the gate open ever, so you never see relay 2.
Okay. Now, under someone who didn't have a first initial and they only had a last name, it appears that everything is under the correct column. So for instance, on 5/18 at 2014, at 10:32 p.m., there was an entry code utilized 3254 for last name Copeland. There's no first initial. They were admitted, and it was on relay 1.
Correct. That one fell to all the right boxes.
Okay.
It's usually in that name, I believe it's only 13 letters that it holds. So if you have a 14th letter, which is usually their last initial, that's why you'll see that shift.
And if it's converted into a Word document and a police report and then tried to convert back, is that how that happens?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When these documents print out, does it print out most recent in time going backwards?
No, it kind of depends on how you ask for the report.
Okay.
So when you ask to print the report, it's going to ask you for a date, a time, and then whether you want it to list the report in alphabetical order, from which what we did on the resident's name, or you can send the report to do it by directory number, so it would have the verse, directory 001 and 002, versus having the names in alphabetical order. Or you can do it by the card number. It would do the cards all in numerical order, however you tell the report to search for it.
Okay.
Numerical order is just the easiest.
I'm going to show you states H42 and draw your attention to starting on 5/16 at 3:54 p.m. There's a code that appears that was attempted to be entered as 2223, and that was denied. Is that correct?
Correct.
Moving up again, still same time, still same date. It looks like someone looked into the directory as under they typed in the number 222 for the directory, and that was denied.
Yes, when they typed in the 222, it called Mr. and Mrs. Purdue, and they denied letting them in.
Okay. So looking at the directory for last name Purdue, it's S. Purdue. The 222, that's the number under the directory column, so that's where they are in the directory, is that correct?
Correct. If you went up and put the wrong code in and meant to push 2222 and actually hit 222, it would call the Purdue instead of doing an entry code.
And in fact, if it was somebody who knew Purdue's code, or if it was in fact Purdue and they were going to type in their actual code is 9907, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
You have to push pound after you do an entry code as well. So if you don't push the pound, it's not going to let you in either.
All right. So it looks like it was denied. So can you tell from that column whether or not Purdue pushed a number and declined it, or they just did not answer?
It won't tell me whether they pushed a number or denied it. It's either they didn't answer or they hung up the phone.
Then again at 3:54, same date and time, it looks like entry code 2222 for Gloria Gibson was typed in, and the person was admitted.
Correct.
Showing you again on, State's Exhibit H41 at 5:39 p.m. The number 222 was entered. That's a directory that came up for Purdue. Now, is that because nobody in the complex has the code 222? Everybody has a 4-digit code.
Correct. Only a 4-digit code will let them in the gate. If they dial any other number, it's going to call whatever number that's associated with, whether they know the person. If I just walk up and push 541, whoever's assigned directory code 541, that's who it's going to call.
Okay.
And they may answer and let you in. They may not answer. You know, this person evidently didn't let them in. They either answered and didn't know the person, or they just didn't answer the phone.
And so their access was not gained at 5:39 p.m. by entering in 222. Is that correct?
Correct.
Then starting down at State's Exhibit H40, starting at 5:55, there are 3 times that 222 are introduced for a directory code, and they are all denied. Is that correct?
Correct.
And if someone thought that was the access code, it would go to the directory, because you have to have a 4-digit code to get in that gate. Is that correct?
4-digit code and the pound symbol.
And the pound sign. State's Exhibit H38, there's a code on May 16th of 2014 at 9:03 p.m. An entry code was typed in of 2222, the correct code for Gloria Gibson, and that person was admitted.
Correct.
And State's Exhibit H37 at 11:19 p.m. Police were typing in the code, their code access, which is 1250, to enter access to the Doral Oaks apartment complex.
I can't confirm that it was the police, but the police's code was used.
It was used at that time.
Correct.
Okay. And there's no way to tell when someone follows someone else in who enters, is that correct?
No way to tell.
Okay. You stated previously you don't know Gloria Gibson.
I do not.
You don't know a Trevor or Granville Ritchie.
Do not.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
State with passive witness, Judge.
Okay, Cross?
Yes, briefly. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So when we look at this exhibit, yeah, and it's a card access, and we look at the number in the next column, and it's a 4-digit number. That means that the number that's assigned has a 0 added onto it, because all the card access numbers are 5 numbers.
The device numbers are all 5 numbers. The card numbers would be a 4-digit number. Or, I'm sorry, the entry code would be a 4-digit number. The card numbers would all be a 5-digit number. Yes, sir.
Right. The entry code, where you don't need a card, you just push in a code, is a 4-digit number.
Correct.
Right? The card generally is a 5-digit number, but when we look at this sheet that's just been introduced into evidence, there are some entries that are by cards, and there are 4-digit numbers, and I believe you said if only a 4-digit number shows up, there should be a 0 at the front of it.
Correct.
Okay, very good. And just to make sure I understand how this works, if I pull up to the gate and I push a 3-digit number, and assuming that that 3-digit number is associated with someone who lives in that apartment complex, it's going to call that apartment complex.
Correct.
Okay. And if they don't answer within an appropriate time period, then it's going to show up as being denied entry, right?
Correct.
Doesn't mean that someone actually denied me entry.
Correct.
Just shows that
Nobody was home.
No one answered.
Correct.
Right? Okay. Now, if I have someone has given me the code, and the code, for example, for Gloria Gibson's unit is 2222, right? 4 2s, right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's her entry code, not the number, not the code for her unit.
Understand. And in order to put the entry code, you put in the 4 numbers and then pound?
Correct.
Okay. In order to put the directory 3-digit number, do you hit pound after that as well?
No,
Okay.
sir.
You just hit the 3 numbers, and then there's a little bit of delay, and then it rings.
Correct. You'll hear it ringing.
Sure. So if I'm either hesitating or slow when entering the 4-digit code, and I never get to putting the pound in, and I just get the 3 first 2s, then it's going to ring, even though I'm trying to get into the 4-digit code unit, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so when we look at the May 16th, 3:54 p.m., there's 3 entries, right?
I can't
At
see them.
3:54 p.m.
I don't see anything on your screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I do. You see it?
Yes, sir. Yes.
All right. And if you look at, now it goes from, the bottom of the page starts at 2:48 p.m. and then the top of the page is 4:08 p.m., right?
Correct.
All right. So basically, as we're looking at it sequentially, it goes from the bottom up.
Correct.
Okay. So at 3:54 p.m., there are 3 entries that are basically at the same time.
Correct. Which-
Same time as far as within the minute.
Correct.
All right. And the first time that's entered, it's entered 2223. So 3 2s and a 3, right?
Correct.
Now, is that an access code that exists? Do you know?
No, because it was denied.
Okay, so basically that means that access code is no good, right?
Correct.
All right. And so presumably pound was put in, or we don't know?
I do know that pound was put in because it's labeled as an entry code. So somebody thought that
Okay.
the code was 2223.
All right, so they put in 2223, hit pound, it's denied because that code doesn't exist.
Correct.
Okay. Certainly, it's not unreasonable that maybe the person who put in 2223 made a mistake and meant to put in the 4 2s, right?
Objection, speculation, Judge.
Overall, he can.
Not unreasonable.
To the extent you know.
I would assume that as well.
Right. And then the next attempt, it's 222, which is the first 3 digits of the 4-digit code. And this time, it dials that residence, right?
Correct.
Okay. And we don't know if anyone was home or not.
Correct.
And then, all within the same minute, the appropriate code is actually put in and it's given access.
Correct.
Okay. All right. And this would be true as we look at all of these records throughout. You look from the bottom up. Would you agree?
Yes, sir.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Redirect?
No, Judge.
Okay, may this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you're free to go, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. See who's the next witness.
State House Nick Dittman. He's not here.
Do you some swear or affirm that the testimony you about to give in this cause is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Step this way, please. Let's see them with the stand.
Is that? Oh, I'm sorry. No, no.
Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon.
You have to speak up, please.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, we need to hear you. Just make sure you speak up in a loud voice, and I'll try to make sure everyone's hearing you. Can you please state your name and spell it, please?
William Dittman, William Dittman.
Do you also go by the name Nick?
I do.
And is that your middle name, or?
One of my middle names.
Okay. Mr. Dittman, were you previously employed by the Temple Terrace Police Department?
I was.
And how long were you employed by them?
From 2012 to 2018.
All right, so 6 years?
Just shy.
All right. And did you retire from the department in 18?
Not official retirement. I left due to some family stuff.
Okay. You had, I think, a family illness of some kind you had to deal with?
Correct.
Okay. And when you were with the Temple Terrace Police Department, were you certified and sworn pursuant to standards set by the state of Florida?
I was.
And were you, well, you can tell us, in May of 14, what were your duties with the Temple Terrace Police Department?
I was assigned as a patrol officer to the patrol division.
I'm going to call your attention back to a specific day in May of 14, May 17th, a Saturday in 2014. Do you recall that date?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall the search for a missing person by the name of Felicia Williams?
I do.
Do you remember being contacted that day and being asked to respond to the Temple Terrace Police Department?
I was.
And when you were working at that time for the Temple Terrace Police Department, were you, in addition to your duties that you've already told us about, were you also assigned to a special Marine unit?
Yes, sir, I was.
Can you tell the jurors about that, what you all did?
So there is a full-time position for the Marine unit that was Officer Stavanis, and then I was the auxiliary, the backup to the Marine unit. So if he wasn't available, then I was part of the Marine unit, and we'd respond. We'd enforce the Marine violations, boating violations, resource violations, and such, as well as assist with the vessels for additional resources for the police department.
Pursuant to your role, that role you had with the police department, were you asked, at around 7:30 that morning of that Saturday, were you asked to assist in searching a certain body of water there in Temple Terrace?
I was contacted at home that morning and asked to respond around 7:30 that Saturday morning to search the river for a missing 9-year-old female.
Okay. And would that be the Hillsborough River?
It was.
And did you travel somewhere to prepare a boat to use in that search?
So I responded to the police station, and directly behind the police station is our city's public works, and that's where our vessels are stored. So I went to the public works department to get the vessels ready.
And did you transport the vessel somewhere?
I did. From there, we went to Fire Station 1, which is located on Bullard, just south, about a mile from the police station, and that's where I met with Sergeant Spalla.
Okay. And from there, did you respond to some area on the Hillsborough River?
Correct. From there, we then went to the River Hills boat ramp, which is next to River Hills Elementary on South River Hills Drive.
The fire station that you responded to, is that the one that's next to the CVS near the corner of 56 and Bullard?
Yes, sir.
Just asked if you look over your shoulder, your right shoulder. I'm going to show you states A that's in evidence. I'm going to call your attention to the intersection here of Bush Bullard and 56th Street. Would this be the location of the fire department where my finger is?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
So after meeting there with Sergeant Staley, or was it Corporal Staley?
That was Sergeant Spalla.
Spalla, I'm sorry, Sergeant Spalla. Did you then leave that area you said and you went to somewhere on the Hillsborough River?
Yes, sir. Just south of there to the River Hills boat ramp.
And when you arrived there, were there also some other civilian auxiliary employees or volunteers that assisted you or met you?
Yeah, the 2 Citizens Volunteer Patrol members were there, and they got into the vessel and assisted with looking for the young lady.
Okay. I'm going to show you states B. Have you previously seen this satellite image?
Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
do you
sir.
recognize it as containing the Hillsborough River and portions of Temple Terrace?
Yes, sir.
Do you see the same intersection we were just looking at, but just in a higher altitude image?
Yes, sir.
All right. And is that marked at this point here where my finger is?
Yeah, just north of your finger would be the fire station.
We see a label for a CVS. Is the fire station next to the CVS?
That's correct.
Do you see the area on this overhead image where you responded with the Marine unit with the boat?
Yes, sir.
If you could point to it for us.
It would be in the vicinity right here.
Okay. And are you using the little island portions inside the river as kind of a reference?
That's correct.
All right. So did you put the boat into the water there at that location? Is there a ramp there, a boat ramp?
There is, and a dock.
And you said that volunteers were on board with you
Yes, sir.
on that vessel? And did you, at that time, start searching the river in some certain direction?
So, yes, sir. From the time we launched, we went ahead and went downstream to the dam.
All right, so what I'm going to ask you to do, and I'm going to pull out a little bit here. Can you show us which direction is downstream?
Yes, sir.
Downstream, excuse me.
So we launched here, and then we proceeded downstream, which would be in a southward or westerly direction for the river in this geographical area. We searched down. This is the 40th Street Bridge, and continued down to that dam.
Okay. So this area here where we see kind of a straight edge in the river, is that a dam?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And does the river narrow past that dam?
Yes, sir, it does.
And did you go past the dam?
No, sir.
All right. So let me ask, while you were traveling that route, were you also, not just in the water, but were you also focusing on the banks of the river?
Yes, sir. So we went downstream first to the dam, and then did more of a embankment search on the way back upstream.
And were you looking on the banks for both Felicia Williams and evidence of her, such as her clothing?
That's correct. Any items that would be possibility of this incident.
Did you encounter other boaters?
We encountered other boaters, and as well as like folks on the shore fishing.
Did you stop and advise them what you were doing and who you were looking for?
Yes, we advised them that we were looking for a missing 9-year-old black female, and if they were to see anything, to let us know.
So you asked them, you told them the person you were looking for. Did you give them a description?
Yes, sir.
Age,
Yes, sir.
race, sex, and everything of the child?
That's correct.
All right. Did you then come back up to where the boat ramp area is in that shoreline search?
Yes, sir. We actually went just upstream from the boat ramp here. This is called the West River Preserve area.
West River Preserve?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we came upstream to this area here just to check the vicinity, and then went back to the boat ramp.
All right. Now, why did you go down and go through that loop of the river?
Because all these roads right in this area here are interconnected, and this is all kind of a park through here. So I just wanted to check this area and canvass it.
Now, when you were doing this entire search, was it daylight?
It was.
Did you have good visibility?
Yes, sir.
Did you find anything or any clothing or anything to suggest that Felicia had been in that area?
No, sir.
Back up here. You talked about the 40th Street Bridge over the Hillsborough River. Is this, in fact, a bridge where 56th Street passes over the Hillsborough River? Where my finger's passing.
That one is the 56th Street Bridge, yes, sir.
Okay. And underneath the bridge on the north side of the river, is there a park in that area?
Yes, sir, about where your finger just was.
All right. And what is that park called?
Riverside.
When you finished the marine search of the river, did you take the boat back to the dock and put it back on its trailer?
I did.
And where'd you go from there?
We went back to the station.
And when you got back to the station, did you meet with other officers and detectives when you were there?
Yes, sir.
Did you end up meeting with I believe it again was Sergeant Spalla or Detective Spalla?
Ultimately, yes, sir.
All right. And were you tasked with assisting him and then also Sergeant Mike Lowell with photographing or taking screenshot photographs of a phone that had been collected from the defendant, Granville Ritchie?
Yes, sir.
All right. And was a digital phone used to actually photograph the screen as certain screens were pulled up on his phone?
A digital camera.
A digital camera. I'm sorry, digital camera.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Motion to witness.
Okay.
I'm going to show you what's been marked.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
That's T as in Tom, 1 through 4. And just ask, have you previously seen these?
Yes, sir.
And are these photographs of screenshots taken of the defendant's phone?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, tender states T 1 through 4.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Admitted.
In addition to performing that duty, when you returned to the Temple Terrace Police Department, were you asked to make contact with a deputy from the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office
In between searching the river and
taking the photographs?
and that task, I was asked to stand by for canine units to search the area to see if they needed anything with the vessel assistance.
Okay. So that's going to be an officer, a deputy from the Sheriff's Office that has a canine and is a specialized canine unit?
Yes, sir.
All right. And did you make contact with that canine deputy?
I did.
And did you assist the canine deputy in searching some area within Temple Terrace?
Yes, sir. They attempted to track.
All right. And do you remember where that was?
It was in the area of like Shadow and Springdale, which would be like the south end of the Doral Oaks.
Okay. Published states B-C. B is in Bravo, C is in Charlie. And again, refer you to the Boulder 56th Street intersection and then the Doral Oaks Apartments. Do you have your bearings on the map now? On the
Yes, sir.
satellite image? Okay. Do you see the area that you assisted the canine deputy in searching?
Yes, sir.
Can you show us where it was?
This area here.
Now, in that area, just to the west of where you directed your finger, is there a grocery store parking lot or a grocery store complex there?
Yes, sir. It's this building here.
Is that a Winn-Dixie?
I believe that is Winn-Dixie. Yes, sir.
And it indicates there's a U.S. Post Office right there?
Right here in this back corner.
Okay. And in assisting the canine deputy, did you all search into a certain area that's shown on the map or the overhead?
Yes, sir. It started in this area, and we came down here, and Chicago Avenue and Springdale area.
Okay. And did you all locate anything to deal with Felicia Williams, either her or any of her clothing or anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay. were there other officers from the Temple Terrace Police Department and other deputies from the Sheriff's Office, as well as Temple Terrace Fire Department personnel that were conducting canvasses and searches in that area
Yes, sir.
that morning?
Yes, sir.
I'll tender the witness, Your Honor.
Okay, Cross?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, may this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, sir. You're free to go.
Thank you.
Okay, state car next witness.
State will call Carlos Lopez.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this cause is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And step up this way, have a seat in the witness stand.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Would you please state your name and spell your names?
Name is Carlos Lopez, Carlos Lopez.
All right. And how are you employed, sir?
I'm retired right now.
And have you retired from law enforcement?
Yes,
Did you previously work for the Temple Terrace Police Department?
yes.
How long did you work for the Temple Terrace Police Department?
Approximately 14 years,
All right, and when did you retire?
March of 2018.
And previous to that, did you work for another law enforcement agency here in the Tampa Bay area?
Yes.
And what agency was that?
I worked for 10 months with the Pinellas Park Police Department.
And that was before coming to Temple Terrace?
Yes,
When you worked for those two agencies, were you a certified and sworn law enforcement officer pursuant to standards set by the state of Florida?
yes.
Prior to working for the Pinellas Park Police Department, where did you work?
I did 20 years. I was a detective with the NYPD.
New York Police Department?
Yes,
All right. And when you were working there, were you sworn and certified by New York state standards?
yes,
All right. So I want to call your attention back to May of 2014. Were you employed by Temple Terrace at that time?
yes.
Specifically, I'm going to call your attention to the evening of May 16th, 2014. Did you respond to an area near the intersection of Bullard Parkway and 56th Street?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what were you responding in reference to?
I had an officer who requested my assistance in regards to report of a missing juvenile.
Who was the officer that requested your assistance?
The name was Officer Martin Ramirez.
And at that time, what was your position with the Temple Terrace Police Department?
I was the sergeant at the time, and I was the patrol supervisor that night.
All right. So would that be commonly called a patrol sergeant or a patrol supervisor?
Yes,
I'm going to show you what's been marked as States A and ask you to look over your right shoulder at the screen. I'm going to refer your attention to the intersection, Bullard Parkway and 56. Right here, there's a CVS, just to kind of give you your bearings. Do you see the area that you responded to in that satellite image?
yes.
Can you point to it for us?
The parking lot area right here.
All right. Now, was there a building there that had formerly housed a restaurant?
Yes,
And was that a Burger King?
yes,
And was it at that time closed?
yes.
When you arrived there, who was on scene?
Officer Ramirez was on scene, and there's a large couple of people there, and one turned out to be the parents of the missing juvenile.
Okay. Miss Felicia Demerson, the victim's mother, was she there?
Yes,
Was Ebony Wiley there?
yes,
When you arrived, was the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office deputy still on scene?
yes,
Okay. And after you arrived, did you speak with Officer Ramirez, and did he brief you on what was occurring there, or what had happened?
According to what Officer Ramirez told me was that there was an apartment complex next door called the Ral Oaks, and
Let me show that to you real quick. Is that just right here to the east of that location?
yes,
Those white buildings, I guess, or with the white roofs?
yes,
All right. So did he brief you on this missing child and the facts that he knew at that point? I'm not asking you to tell us what he said.
yes, he did. He briefed
Okay.
me on it.
All right. And after being briefed on it, at some point, did you respond well, first of all, did you contact supervisors after being briefed?
Yes, I did.
All right. And at some later point, was this designated as a missing persons report or an endangered child report?
Yes.
Did you then instruct Temple Terrace patrol units to respond to a certain location?
Yes.
And where was that?
It'd be up on Tanglewood, I think it was,
All right.
if
And
I remember.
is that within the Doral Oaks apartments?
Yes.
Okay, I'll come out a little bit here so we can see the whole scene. All right. And did you have them respond there in reference to a be on the lookout?
Yes.
All right, and that's commonly called a BOLO, an acronym for be on the lookout is a BOLO?
Yes.
Were they responding there to see if they could contact this little girl or find her?
Yes, I had the units respond in that area looking for the female juvenile.
And did you end up responding to that area?
Yes, I did.
Do you remember about what time you arrived?
That I'd have to look at my report to refresh my recollection.
Let me provide you with a copy of that. Yeah, I think that's it. Take a look at that.
Probably is going to be sometime after 10:26. But I can't find our exact time. Yeah, I can't find the exact time. I don't remember.
Let me back up, because I think I skipped over something here. You had an officer respond to the Doral Oaks apartments in reference to it be on the lookout for this little girl, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you also have, did you instruct another unit to conduct a be on the lookout within the area of Riverside Park?
Yes.
All right. And Riverside Park would be south of there, right near the 56th Street Bridge over the Hillsborough River?
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to show you states B-C. Would this be the area of Riverside Park?
Yes.
Okay. And it's actually, I believe, labeled in this satellite image?
Yes.
All right. Do you recall why you had them respond down to that park?
I'm just basically having them start covering the area, looking places where a juvenile might go hang out or might wander to.
All right. It looks like you responded to, let me rephrase that. I may have one moment.
Yes.
All right. I apologize. I probably handed you the wrong report. I think I got my files mixed up here. So I'm going to let you look at this. When you had units respond to Doral Oaks to begin a BOLO, do you remember approximately what time it was?
Yeah, it would be 22:53 hours, which is 10:53 p.m.
Okay. And then you instructed units to respond to the Riverside Park, River Hills Park, and that would have been at almost 2300, 1100, or 11 o'clock?
Yes.
All right. At 11:15, did you direct another uniformed unit to conduct an area search of the west side of Bush Boulevard between Grove Hill Road and North 56th Street,
Yes.
and to also conduct a search of a bowling alley and a skate center with negative, well, that was nearby on 56, on Bush Boulevard.
Yes.
All right. And were those searches, or did those searches come up negative?
Yes, they all came up negative.
Okay. Did you instruct dispatch to issue a be on the lookout to the surrounding law enforcement agencies within the Hillsborough County area?
Yes.
And that would include the Tampa Police Department and agencies in Pinellas County?
I guess whoever they send it out to would be like Hillsborough, Tampa, yes.
Okay. Did you also ask your dispatch to contact Heartline Bus and inquire if any juvenile females may have boarded the bus?
Yes.
Okay, and did that also come back negative?
Yes.
For who you were looking for Felicia Williams?
Yes.
Okay. And at 11:30, did the Doral Oaks, this I guess would be maintenance, return a call that an on-call worker would be responding to allow you all to make access to a certain apartment in the Doral Oaks apartments?
Yes.
Okay, so now we're at 11:30. All right. Now, going into the early morning hours of May 17th, 2014, at approximately 12:11 a.m., so the very first minutes of May 17th, did you in fact respond back to the Doral Oaks apartments and make contact with a maintenance person who gave you a key to the apartment?
Yes.
All right. And at around 20 minutes past midnight, did you and one of the uniformed officers conduct a systematic search of that apartment, 721?
Yes.
Show you some photographs again, if you can look over your right shoulder. I'm showing you C, as in Charlie, C85. Do you recognize that as being the front door to the apartment you entered?
Yes.
And when you entered the apartment with the uniformed officer, did you search the apartment for Felicia Williams, for a little girl?
Yes, we did.
And did you locate her anywhere in that apartment?
No.
Did you locate anybody in the apartment?
No.
Can you tell us, as far as your search, what areas of the apartment did you search?
We basically searched the entire apartment, under the beds, inside cabinets, refrigerator, bathrooms, and all the bedrooms and all the closets.
Okay. And any storage areas?
And anything that was accessible, we searched in that apartment.
I'm going to show you states. C is in Charlie 92. Do you recall that area of the apartment?
Yes.
The living area. Did you notice something at that time in the carpeting that drew your attention?
Yes.
Can you show us and tell us what you saw? Is it in that photograph, what you saw?
Yes. The one thing that stood out was in the rugs, there was an impression of what I thought were drag marks, which right here, on these two sides.
So you took note of that.
Yes.
And in one of the bedrooms states C120, one bedroom with no furniture in it. Did you see things on the floor?
Yes.
And are they reflected in state C120 that's being published right now?
Yes.
Okay. And did you see suitcases?
Yes.
State C121. And is that the suitcase you saw, or one of the two suitcases?
Yes.
State C-128. Is that another area of clothing and suitcase that you saw?
Yes.
State C-129. Did you take note of the clothing that was on the floor?
Yes.
Did you make any observations about that?
The observation was that the clothes, at that point, I made the assumption with another officer, the clothes were folded neatly, and they looked like they may have been taken out of a suitcase.
Possibly even dumped on the floor out of the suitcase?
Yes.
1236 was Detective Elmer requested to respond as the on-call detective?
Yes.
And by that time, and I'm talking about 45 minutes past midnight, was there a large contingent of people now at the corner by the old Burger King?
Yes.
Because the crowd was growing, did you relocate the crowd or the people in the crowd somewhere else?
Yes.
And where was that?
I had everybody go back to the police department.
At 2:38 in the morning, did you request 5 uniformed TTPD units, Temple Terrace Police Department uniform units, to go back to the Doral Oaks apartments and to conduct a systematic search of the apartments?
Yes.
Did that search involve vehicles?
Yes.
And did it involve breezeways and alleyways within the apartment complex?
Yes.
And also surrounding and interior streets?
Yes.
Did you also direct them to search storage units within the apartment complex?
Yes.
And was anything located?
No.
Did you and another unit, and it would have been Patrol Unit 702, did you conduct a secondary search of apartment 721, the apartment we just looked at?
Yes.
So you went in there twice looking?
Well, the second time was to show the detective what we found and then to show him the apartment.
Okay. And did you find anything
No.
as far as Felicia Williams?
No.
At 3 o'clock in the morning, did you have your dispatch at Temple Terrace contact the Tampa Police Department and ask them to respond to a residence on Ida Street in Tampa?
Yes, I did.
And did you request that those units do something at that residence?
Yes.
And what was that?
I requested Tampa respond to the residence of the juvenile, the missing juvenile, to conduct a search of her actual residence to see if she was in the residence herself there.
Okay. And around 4 o'clock in the morning, were you notified that that search had yielded negative results?
Yes.
Did that pretty much complete your investigation in this case?
Yes, it did.
Did you go off duty later that morning?
Yes.
The entire area that we've discussed, Doral Oaks, Riverside Park, all those areas, they're all contained within Hillsborough County?
Yes.
I'll tender the witness, Your Honor.
Okay, Cross.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Prior to doing the BOLO and doing all the things that you discussed here in front of the jury, I think you indicated that you met up with Felicia Demerson, and Ebony Wiley, and others at a Burger King parking lot.
Yes.
And I believe that was around 10:30, 10:32.
Sometime around that night.
22, 32 hours. It would assist to take a look at your report to review your
Yes.
number. Did I approach? Ron?
This will be about 10:32 p.m.
Okay.
2232.
Very good. And when you were there, Ebony Wiley was there along with a gentleman who you believed to be her friend, right?
Yes.
And you spoke with Ebony Wiley.
Yes.
Ebony Wiley informed you that she had been working that day at what you refer to as a senior citizens hospital or something like that.
Objective hearsay at this point?
It's impeachment, Your Honor,
Of whom?
of Ebony Wiley.
I'm going to overrule the objection.
Okay. Can we approach it?
Yep, come on up.
Ebony Wiley told you that she had been working at an old age or senior citizen hospital or something like that. Do you recall?
I don't recall that information.
Okay. Would it maybe refresh your memory if you were to be able to review a previous sworn statement that you made in this case?
Yes.
Okay. Page 6, bottom of page 6 onto page 7. You just read bottom of page 6 and page 7 to yourself. And just let me know when you've completed that.
If we could approach again.
Yeah. Right, you may proceed.
You have a chance to review?
Yes.
Okay. Does that refresh your memory?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall that Ebony Wiley basically told you she was at work?
Yes.
Right? That Felicia Williams came to her place of employment.
Yes.
That she took Felicia Williams to a friend's apartment.
Yes.
That she left Felicia Williams at her friend's apartment.
Yes.
And left to go and buy some food at Checkers.
Yes.
And then when she returned to her friend's apartment, Felicia Williams was gone.
Yes.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, redirect.
Sergeant Lopez, I'm sorry, Mr. Lopez. You didn't record in your report any interview of Ebony Wiley, correct? And I'll let you look at it, keep it in front of you.
No, I did not.
And you didn't summarize any statement she gave you?
No.
All right. And in your deposition, bottom of page 6, top of line 7, you stated, spoke to Ebony and she explained to us basically that she was at work. I'm reading into the
Go
record
ahead.
what exactly was said in this
Go ahead.
deposition.
Go ahead.
Explained to us basically that she was at work, and I think it was an old age or senior citizens hospital or something like that. And Felicia showed up, and that she brought Felicia back after she left work or something. Do you remember making that statement in the deposition?
Yes.
And then you stated she brought Felicia back to the Doral Oaks Apartments to a friend's apartment there, and she was meeting her. From what I remember, she said she was meeting somebody there. Again, you're indicating from what you remember. You don't have anything recorded in your report as to what she told you, correct?
What she told me exactly, no. I don't have anything
All
in
right.
my report.
And you didn't record that in any way to where you could listen to that before your deposition, correct?
Correct.
All right. And you indicated in your deposition when you were answering the question that she showed up and that she brought Felicia back after she left work or something. So could it be something close to that?
Yes.
If she had told you that Felicia had come to her work on a prior occasion and that after work she picked Felicia up from an address in Tampa and brought her back to those apartments, could those two things have been conflated in your memory and kind of added together?
Possibly.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, I was remembering on the depot side. I had nothing recorded to read from.
All right. You had no summary of any statements she'd given you, and you hadn't recorded it in your report. Other officers or deputies did that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I have nothing else, Your Honor.
Okay, may this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you're free to go. All right, Steve, call one more witness and we'll take our afternoon break.
State we call
Terry DeWitt.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Theresa Wagner, Wagner.
Back in May of 2014, what was your last name?
DeWitt.
And how are you currently employed?
I am just retired from the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office
And when did you retire?
last week.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How long did you work for the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office?
Since August of 2005.
And what were your duties with them?
I was a crime scene investigator.
What does a crime scene investigator do?
A crime scene investigator photographs, processes, and collects evidence as they relate to different kind of crimes within the county.
And did you have any prior law enforcement experience prior to Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, for 3 years I was with the Manatee County Sheriff's Office also as a crime scene investigator.
What educational background or training or experience do you have to hold your position as a crime scene investigator?
I have an associate's degree in crime scene technology from St. Petersburg College. I also have a bachelor's degree in anthropology from the University of Florida and a master's of science in pharmacy with an emphasis in forensic science, also from the University of Florida. And through my 17 years, there's been numerous on-the-job training, conferences, different classes that I attended as well.
Did you become involved in a Temple Terrace homicide investigation?
Yes, I did.
Were you asked to assist them?
Yes, I was.
Did you assist them on multiple dates?
Yes.
Do you recall the first date that you or your assistance was requested?
Yes, it was May 18th of 2014.
And what were you asked to do on that day?
I was asked to photograph and assist in the processing of a vehicle that was at our crime scene garage.
And do you recall what the vehicle looked like?
I believe it was a silver car. I don't remember the make.
And where is it that you conducted your search of this vehicle?
It was at the crime scene section garage, which is our office on Falkenberg Road.
Is that a locked area that Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office keeps items of evidence?
Yes, it's a secure facility.
What specifically did you do with regards to investigating this vehicle?
I began with photographs of the car and then did a number of different processes for different types of evidence that may have been located within the vehicle.
When you are searching a vehicle, a place, a person, are there any precautions that you take in order to preserve the crime scene?
Yes.
And what are those?
It could be anything from simple as a pair of gloves to actually wearing a Tyvek suit, which is the white suit with the hood and the hairnet, as well as gloves, face mask, goggles. It depends on the situation. In this particular instance, because of the type of evidence that we were looking for in the vehicle, I was actually wearing a Tyvek suit and goggles, gloves.
And why specifically, because it was a vehicle, did you require to wear this Tyvek suit?
Well, vehicle is kind of a tight space to be crawling around in anyway, and in this particular instance, I was looking for biological material and possible hairs, and I didn't want to contaminate the car with anything from myself.
And when you say contaminate, in other words, you didn't want a piece of your hair to fall off into that vehicle?
Correct.
Ms. Wagner, I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit O1 through 47. Have you had a prior occasion to look through the photographs that you took of the Lexus vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. And do they fairly and accurately depict the vehicle on May 18th of 2014 when you conducted your search of that vehicle?
Yes, they do.
State offers an evidence State's Exhibit O1 through 47.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Admitted.
Permission to publish?
Yes.
Publishing O1. What is this photograph?
This is the first photograph that is taken when you're taking crime scene photographs. It shows the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office case number, the fact that it's an assist other agency for Temple Terrace PD, and their case number in the center, and then below that, my maiden name, my ID number, and then the date the photographs were taken.
Do you take, is there a special way that you go about searching a vehicle, initially photographing it and then ultimately searching it?
I take photographs starting from the outside first, and then overalls of the inside, and then proceed with the search generally in the same way.
State's Exhibit 03.
Just one of the overall photographs. This is showing the driver's side of the car.
Judge, for the record purposes, this was misnumbered, so there's no 02. I just wanted that to be clear, and I marked evidence tag that way.
Okay, very good.
State's
So
Exhibit
it's 01,
I'm sorry.
comma, it's 01, comma, 3 through 47.
47.
Okay.
04. Again, is this just another outside photograph showing the back driver's side of the vehicle?
Yes, this is progressing around the vehicle.
'05.
This is the driver's side rear.
Were there any Temple Terrace law enforcement officers present during this execution of the search of the vehicle?
Yes,
And who was that, do you recall?
Detective Lee Smith.
06. What does this photograph depict?
The rear trunk of the Lexus.
'07. Again, is this continuing around the outside of the vehicle?
Correct. This is the rear side of the Lexus, but from the passenger side. So again, progressing around the car. This is the passenger side of the Lexus from the back.
'08.
This is progressing towards the front of the vehicle on the passenger side.
And '09.
That's the front quarter of the vehicle, again on the passenger side.
And '10.
That's a directly front view of the car.
And there's what appears to be a garage door behind you. This is an enclosed area where you're taking these photographs?
Yes, this is the garage at the crime scene section, so it's enclosed, it's under a roof and everything.
Did this vehicle remain at the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office? Or was it released to the Temple Terrace Police Department after you were done executing your search of the vehicle?
I don't know the answer to that question.
State's Exhibit 012. This appears to be the front passenger side of the vehicle. What was the purpose of this photograph?
There were some scratches on what's probably called on the car is the front fender, which is the front, some people call it the quarter panel, but the front portion of the vehicle, so the hood is directly to the top of the photo. This is looking from the front of the car towards the back along the passenger side, and there were some scratches along the front fender that went a little bit into the front passenger door.
State's Exhibit 013. What does this photograph depict? And if I need to approach, because the lighting on this Elmo is not great, let me know, please.
No, this is another photograph of that front passenger side fender of the car, These are just with a ruler in the picture. That's my hand holding up the ruler, showing that, that the scratches are linear and going along the length of the fender.
And is this further down the passenger side of the vehicle compared to the last photograph?
Yes.
And is this how you found the vehicle when you began your search?
Yes, it was.
After you go about taking external photographs of the car, do you then move and take photographs or document your observations of the inside of the vehicle?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 014. What side of the car is this?
This is the interior on the driver's door and the driver's seat. You can see in the right side of the photo.
.016, is this a view from the driver's side looking into the front part of the vehicle?
Yes, it is.
.017.
That's a photograph of the floorboard on the driver's side.
.018, is this still the driver's side of the vehicle?
Yes, that's the driver's seat.
.022, what does this photograph depict?
This is the rear seat of the vehicle from the open driver's side door. So this is the rear driver's side door, open, showing the back seat. The driver's seat is in the left of the photograph, and in the center, that's the rear seat.
When you began your search, did you ever go out to the original location where this vehicle was ultimately seized by law enforcement?
No.
Were you aware of where it was prior to coming to the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office impound lot?
No.
Were you aware that, in fact, Detective Smith, after the search warrant was signed, that he had done a cursory photographs of the vehicle?
No.
State's Exhibit 024. Is this simply a close-up of that suitcase that was located in the back seat?
Yes.
.025. Is this the passenger back door?
Yes, it is.
.026. What does this photograph depict?
That's the back seat from the passenger rear door side.
And .027.
That's the back dash. So what you're looking at in the center of the photo is the little rear tail light, or brake light that comes on. So that's the actual back dash below the rear window.
.030.
That's the front passenger compartment.
When you say that you searched the cars, the entire car searched, including all containers within the car, glove compartment, glove boxes, center consoles, things like that.
Yes.
And states 032. Is this a photograph of the glove compartment?
Yes, it is.
.033, moving over to the center console. Is that a photograph of what was taken?
Yes.
And were the papers on top removed and further photographs taken depicted in 034?
Yes.
Did you also document your findings in the trunk?
Yes, I did.
035, what does this depict?
That's one of the views of the trunk that's towards the driver's side. So just showing the items that were in the trunk as we found it.
And 036?
That's a picture of the passenger side. So it's like two photos showing each side of the trunk.
.038?
That's the interior of the trunk lid itself. So that's it with it in its upright position, open position.
And 039?
The VIN?
Where is this located? Do you recall in the vehicle?
No, generally it's found on the door panel, the door frame, or on the door itself or on the door frame.
.040, is this another photograph of the items in the trunk?
Yes.
.042, what does this photograph depict?
That's the suitcase that was in the back seat of the car.
.043, do you also document items that you found in the vehicle that may contain names of people who may have occupied the vehicle?
Yes.
Was this one of those documents?
Yes.
.044, what does this depict?
Some more items that were found within the car and just documenting names.
Did you ever meet with or interview Granville Ritchie related to this case?
No.
Do you conduct any interviews as your job as a crime scene investigator?
No.
Were all the items that were found in the car, the suitcase, the clothing within the suitcase, were all of those collected by you?
Yes.
Ultimately, were those items turned over to the Temple Terrace Police Department?
Yes, they were.
States 046, what does this photograph depict?
That is the passenger side front headlight. There was a little scrap of green material that was found in the headlight, and that was photographed with scale.
.047, is that another angle or close-up of that green material?
Yes, it is.
And ultimately, was that green material ever collected from that headlight?
Yes.
Did you collect that?
Yes.
Do you conduct any testing on that?
No.
Do you recall the approximate size of that green material?
It looked like it was just a few millimeters. It's very small.
Did you do anything else to the vehicle in your processing of it?
Yes.
What else did you do?
I examined it with an alternate light source in order to look for biological materials or maybe hairs that would show up under the alternate light source, and then tested any suspected stains.
Can you explain how you go about utilizing this alternate light source?
An alternate light source, the easiest way to explain it is that if you've ever seen a black light and a white t-shirt will glow under a black light, An alternate light source used in a forensic situation has a lot of ranges of possible alternate light. So not just the UV light that a black light would have, but many different wavelengths of light. So it's to look for different material to see what will luminesce or what will show up under that light. So in this particular case, looking for possible biological fluids again, or hairs, something that would luminesce and show up differently under the light versus just plain white light. So that's what I began with, was the alternate light search.
When you say biological fluids, what do you mean by that?
Blood and semen in this particular case.
When you use the alternative light source, do you use it all throughout the car or only specific areas within the car?
No, in this particular case, the entire car was searched.
Did any areas light up that you recall?
Yes.
And what areas were those?
I'd have to reference my report to
Would
be
looking at your
specific.
report refresh your recollection?
It would be.
Please let me know when your recollection's been refreshed.
In my report, I just put multiple spots inside the car were tested. So there were some areas that glowed. I didn't specifically put in my report because they all came back negative with further testing.
So what do you mean by you did further testing and they came back negative? So what happens when you see an area and it lights up?
When I see an area that lights up, in this particular case, I was looking for a glow that might be consistent with seminal fluid. Any of those stains would have been tested further with a chemical reagent test called acid phosphatase test. And what the acid phosphatase test is looking for is an enzyme that's at its highest concentration in human semen. Those stains were tested with the acid phosphatase test, what's called AP test, and they all came back negative. So that's why they weren't further tested at that point.
Did you test for blood at all?
Yes.
Do you use the same kind of acid phosphatase test for that or something else?
It's something different.
Okay. So you said you had multiple areas. Do you remember if they were on the inside of the car or the trunk area at all, or you just had numerous areas that had luminesce with the alternate light source?
There were just numerous areas. Again, other things can luminesce other than biological fluids, so that's why they're all tested with the chemical to see if they're actually a possible stain.
What other things other than bodily fluid can luminesce with the alternate light source?
There could be anything. It could be a cleaning chemical. It could be just a plant material. Pennies will sometimes luminesce with certain chemical reactions. So there's a number of things that could have returned that.
Is that why you tried to go the step further and do the acid phosphatase test?
Exactly.
And you said you did that on the areas that luminesce and they came back negative. So what happens in order to show you that it was a negative and not a positive?
The test itself, you swab the stain with a clean, sterile swab that's been dampened with distilled water, and then you apply a drop of the reagent to it. The reagent, when it has a positive reaction, in about 30 seconds will turn a very deep, vivid purple color. If you don't see that vivid, deep purple color, then it's considered a negative test. But you have to see that bright reaction pretty quickly.
And so you said you also tested the areas or the vehicle for blood. Is that correct?
Yes.
How do you go about doing that?
In this particular case, I looked at it first with the alternate light source and infrared light source to try to see if anything would show up. Blood under certain wavelengths of light actually shows up black. Unlike what you might see on TV, it doesn't glow under the alternate light source, it's actually black. And so you'll get the background will a lot of times turn light, and you'll see a dark stain of dark blackness if it could possibly be blood. In this particular case, nothing looked like it could possibly be, be blood. So the next step was actually a chemical process called Blue Star. Blue Star is a chemical that when sprayed on possible blood will luminesce brightly. It's a bright, bright blue, almost an electric blue. That can also react to other things like chemicals, but you would want to see a certain deep, bright, vivid blue color if it's possibly blood.
How do you apply this Blue Star chemical?
It's sprayed on with a fine mist sprayer.
How did you apply the chemical in this case?
With a fine mist sprayer, yes.
Did you spray the entire vehicle?
Yes.
Did you spray the trunk?
Yes.
Did you get that bright, vivid blue color
Yes.
when you sprayed it?
Yes.
What was the area that you got that at?
There were actually several areas. All of the areas that returned a positive possible blue star reaction, because this chemical is so sensitive to many things, each of those stains was then tested further with a chemical called phenolphthalein. The phenolphthalein chemical is the actual presumptive blood test. It's less sensitive, but it's maybe more specific to blood. So the blue star could react to a lot of things. Hopefully the phenolphthalein would react to more specifically blood. It doesn't confirm that a substance is blood, but in this particular case, very similar to the acid phosphatase test, you swab it with a sterile swab, you apply the chemicals in their order, which is alcohol, the phenolphthalein reagent, and then a drop of hydrogen peroxide, and you want to see an immediate, bright, hot pink reaction.
And I'm sorry, what part of the car did you use the phenolphthalein test on?
On any spots within the vehicle that returned a positive blue star reaction.
And were there any parts of the vehicle that swab turned the positive color?
Yes,
And what area was that?
the floor mat on the driver's side.
And is that depicted in 017?
Yes,
Do you recall the area specifically on that floor mat that tested positive with the phenolphthalein test?
I do not.
Do you conduct any further testing, such as DNA testing, on that swab?
I did not.
Is that something that's typically done by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement?
Yes, it is.
And the items that you collected from this vehicle, they were turned over to the Temple Terrace Police Department?
Yes.
Did that conclude your duties with regards to that day on May 18th of 2014?
Yes.
Were you asked to assist on another date?
Yes.
And what date was that?
May 21st, 2014.
Ms. Wagner, I'm going to show you what's already been introduced into evidence as State's Exhibit C1 through 84. Have you previously looked at these photographs?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and do they fairly and accurately depict the apartment 721 on May 21st that you searched that home?
Yes, I do.
How is it that you were requested to respond out to that location and assist Temple Terrace with that search?
My supervisor at the time had asked me to respond out there, seeing that I had already helped Temple Terrace a few days prior with the vehicle.
And was that apartment within the Doral Oaks apartment complex?
I believe that's the name of the complex, yes.
And was that located within Hillsborough County, Florida?
Yes.
Did you arrive there by yourself, or did Temple Terrace also arrive there with you?
No, a detective from Temple Terrace was there as well.
Do you recall which detective that was?
Detective Kelly.
Do you recall approximately what time you arrived there?
Around noon.
And that was on May 21st?
Yes.
Were you aware that Temple Terrace had in fact taken some photographs prior to the 21st?
Yes.
Were you aware of whether or not they had collected any evidence, or was it just photographs that they had taken previously?
I believe they had already collected some evidence from the scene, yes.
State's Exhibit C1. What is this?
That is the case ID card, again with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, case number, the date, and which actually the date is incorrect. I put 5/2, but it should be 5/21/14.
Is that just a typo?
It is. It looks like I just didn't put enough slashes in there.
How do you go about documenting the scene of a residence?
I'll start from the front door and then do overalls of the residence and then do close-ups of anything that might be of evidentiary value in the scene.
State's Exhibit C2, what does this photograph depict?
That's the outside of the apartment building.
C3?
That's a close-up of the address. That's just so that we know what building, what address we're going to.
C6, is this the door entering into the apartment?
Yes, it is.
Number 721.
Yes.
C7, when you take these photographs, is this how you found the scene on May 21st of 2014?
Yes.
Do you go in and move things around at all prior to you going and taking photographs and documenting the scene?
No.
Did law enforcement, Temple Terrace Police Department, or any superior of yours tell you any specifics that they wanted you to document or collect in this case, or were you going in and documenting and collecting anything that was to be pertinent about the case?
No, in this particular instance, I was requested by Temple Terrace to do alternate light source search of the residence, as well as testing for maybe any biological stains that would be in there, and then to document some marks that were in the apartment.
State's Exhibit C8. Where is this photograph taken from? Where are you standing?
This is just outside the front door, so looking in, the front door is on the right-hand edge of the photograph, and the kitchen, you can see the refrigerator in the distance, is to the left of the photo.
And is that where I'm pointing here?
Yes.
If you were to walk in, you would go to the left, you would go into the kitchen?
Correct.
And if you were to walk straight, where would that take you?
Going straight would take you past a front bedroom, a closet, and then what I call a common bathroom, or a bathroom that's like, you'd be like your guest bathroom. And then keep going straight through would lead you into the living room, and then the entryway to the master bedroom.
State's Exhibit C10, is this photograph looking towards the kitchen area?
Correct.
Did you take numerous photographs in this case?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Approximately how many photographs did you take?
I believe several hundred, almost 200.
And are you taking a few steps and taking photographs as you walk through the apartment?
Yes.
Okay. And do some of the photographs attain or show much of the same thing? You're just slowly moving through the apartment.
Yes.
State's Exhibit C11. What does this photograph depict?
That's looking into the living room from the kitchen. So the hallway and the common bath and the front bedroom, that hallway from the previous photograph would be on the other side of this wall you see on the right-hand side of the photo. And again, looking straight through into the living room. So there's two ways into the living room, either from the hallway, the front door, going straight back, or you can kind of dip around a little bit to the left and go through the kitchen and go straight back.
State's Exhibit C12. Is this photograph taken from the kitchen looking out into the family room?
Yes.
And when you were there at that scene, and if I may approach, show you markings that appear to be on the carpet still on May 21st of 2014. Did you notice those track markings on May 21st of 2014?
Yes, I did.
And did you take photographs of those?
Yes, I did.
Have you also since seen photographs that were taken on previous or prior to May 21st that were taken at night by Temple Terrace Police Department?
Yes, I have seen those photos.
State's Exhibit C13. where is this photograph taken from?
This is from the far side of the living room or the family room, looking back towards the kitchen. In this photo, you can see the carpet in the foreground of the photo, and then if you look into the background of the center of the photo, you see a window, you know, the entryway into the kitchen. And the window, you can actually see the handles of the fridge up against, you know, by the window. So this is looking from the balcony towards the kitchen.
And I tell you what, State, how much longer do you anticipate?
A while, Joe.
Okay, so, all right, we're gonna go ahead then and take our afternoon break. I've made you guys wait a little bit longer than I anticipated. So it's 3:25, we'll be back at 3:35, okay? Thank you.
All right, jury exiting.
Okay, very good. Jury has left the courtroom, and is it still Mr.
Wagner, I got
Wagner,
married, Your
okay.
Honor. Thank you.
So I've known you forever, Mr. Wagner. So, since you are still on the witness stand, have not yet been cross-examined, you don't have to stay on the witness stand, you can step down, but you can't talk to anyone, including the prosecutors, about anything related to this case.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. Be back in 10.
I was just getting ready to text you.
We're
losing two of our
Good, how are you?
Good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
Yeah.
Hey, can someone
Good.
text
get ready.
Everybody needs a little coffee or
Yeah.
something.
Because I'm supposed to be in the. Yeah, unless he wants